Devin, hey, congratulations on your new film, Monsters Within.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We always love these indie dramatic films, but tell
Hmm.
us where the original idea came from for Monsters Within.
Yeah, so the original idea, really, I mean, it's kind of the initial idea has always been with me. It's kind of always been inside my head as far as just I wanted to tell a story about a brother and sister relationship where one has special needs. And in this instance, it's the brother and just, how overprotective he is. And he's just the big brother to her. And it's just a very special bond, especially having a sibling with special needs. But as far as getting the actual story to the point of feature film, so in 2020, I made a short film just because of the way everything was going on in 2020. I was like, I just had this realization that I was just sitting around waiting for an opportunity. So we made a
Mhm.
short film, little 10-minute version of the feature film. And then I got to go on the film festival circuit, see how affected people were by it and just how moved they were. And then, yeah, long story short, we made it into a feature film, and here we are.
What's fascinating about Monsters Within is the character Luke,
Mm,
because it's not, one-sided character. You could feel his struggles and
hmm
fitting to the title itself. Can you talk about
hmm
Luke's demons that basically haunts him?
Yeah. So we definitely cover a lot of heavy subject matter in our film. But the kind of the most important one to me to kind of raise awareness to, because mental health awareness is just very important to me. But veterans, what they go through with PTSD, but also just as far as it is a story about a veteran with PTSD, but it also, I think anybody that can relate to it that has gone through some sort of trauma in their life, whether that be grief, um, you know, relationship trouble, or just the losing someone that's very important to you. I think that seems to be what everyone's really kind of someone's found something in our film that they've gravitated to. So that's what I really found fascinating. And I think whenever I wrote it, I knew it was going to be heavy subject matter, but I guess I didn't dawn on me exactly how much someone could just find something in it. So I think that's the really beautiful thing about art. And it's really, yeah, it's just been a very life-changing experience just going through this whole process.
So for you, Devin, how did you get into the mental capacity of playing Luke?
Mhm.
You could correct me if I'm wrong about if you actually had like a military background to get into the character of Luke.
Yeah, so my both my parents were in the military. They were in the Air Force. So growing up, I moved, from base to base to base to base. Lived in a lot of different states, and I wasn't in the military, but growing up around that, it's something that even when I look back on it now, my dad, he does have PTSD. My uncle has PTSD. He was in the Air Force, and yeah, just I think when I was on bases, even as a kid, you see these strong, big, tough soldiers, but then there'll be a moment where, and it's a very specific look in their eye. And so when I look back on that, that's, I think that's what put me in the headspace and just thinking about, from their standpoint and their background. Because yeah, tackling a subject like this, it is something you want to do very responsibly. And so also for the actor and for myself, it can be some dark headspace, but I mean, I think that's one of the most important things about being an actor is putting yourself in the shoes of someone else, but still putting part of yourself in that so that other people can connect with that.
In the case, with the dark headspace, like
Mhm.
for yourself, at the end of the day, how do you turn that off?
Yeah, I think, I'm sure it's different for everybody. For me, I think because I was also directing the film, um, the way that we kind of got into that was I learned pretty quickly because especially on an independent film set, if you are able to secure a really amazing location, you don't have a lot of time on that location. So as far as directing and acting, I got into a really good rhythm of being able to, okay, whenever I'm in front of the camera and I'm acting, be able to turn that on. But then when I when the scene was over, I would almost have to just turn that off, go back into the director's mindset because there's a bunch of other people there that are kind of counting on you. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it was just I think that did kind of help with the changing of that mindset, but at the end of the day, there is some decompression that you have to do for sure to make sure that you're healthy in the mind. So yeah.
It's very fascinating about this film is because it's not just about Luke. It seems like everyone has their secrets and running
Hmm.
away from their own certain demons. Tell us about, circumventing that, putting all that together into a film that, that we all go through this process.
Yeah, and see when I was writing it, that was something that was like you said, it was really important to me to show that because I think 2020 was just it really was just a really tough year for a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, because of just the way that things were, they really maybe got to sit down and think about what was going on in their own lives and the things that maybe they were running from. And then you're just sort of like faced with it. So when I was writing the script and I had all these characters in mind, I wanted to show that no matter who this is, what walk of life they're in or where they are at in their life, whether it's an older character, a younger character, or someone, right in the middle of all that. Yeah, everybody's going through their own thing. And whenever I cast the film, that was something I talked with the actors about was how do you relate to this character? And if there is something that, you know, you went through, is that something that you would relate to this character? So we had a lot of discussion about that. And so whenever we got to the actually filming it, I think everybody was in that just mindset of like that was important to us is just to show that every single person is always going through something. So it's like that statement where it's like, try to be kind to everybody just because you never know what they're going through. And so that was kind of the theme.
Now, marketing sometimes can be deceiving because of the fact that you literally show flashes of a monster in this film.
Right.
So, and it's definitely not a horror film because it's much more of a
Right.
drama film. But
Mhm.
tell us about using the flashes of that monster and how you created something like that for this movie.
Yeah, and again, that kind of goes back to 2020 when we made the short film. So the short film was called A Monster Within, and yeah, we kind of wrestled with the idea of, well, do we show something or do we not show something? And so to me, the monster really just represents just that feeling like it was just this dark shadow over that entire year. And I mean, for a lot of people, that just seems to be like what so it's just the embodiment of that, what you're trying to run away from. And so in a film, I wanted to try to showcase that. And so I wanted there to just always be something following Luke around in the story. But then about halfway through the film, you see that there's a moment where he doesn't see it. And then the Lily character, who's the female lead, she sees it and Luke doesn't see it. So that's where like we just talked about where everyone's kind of going through their own thing. So yeah, I thought that would be an interesting way to kind of symbolize all of that.
Now, since you brought up the Lily character here, because you wanted
Hmm.
to set up some kind of it's sort of like a savior situation by introducing Lily. In
Hmm.
this case, tell us about the development of chemistry and putting Kendall into that position to star opposite to you.
Yeah, so Kendall Cavner plays Lily, and yeah, I mean, right from the audition, she sent in a self-tape, and I just saw something that she just immediately brought to that character that I think that was sort of an intention of just a really personal, but also just like sweet feeling to that character that she brought just from her energy. And then when her and I were doing either whether it was like a table read or just like kind of not necessarily rehearsing because we wanted to keep whatever we had in the moment in front of camera. So whether that was just going over the lines, yeah, there was just like a really instant chemistry that her and I had. And so I knew that if we were able to capture that on film, that was something that I think was going to be really special. And yeah, so there was a veteran that watched our film at a screening recently, and that was something he really commended me on was that I guess how he really loved how the Luke character had that soldier mentality where he wanted to just protect the people that he cares about without even thinking about it. And that was definitely a goal, but it was the way that he worded it that I was like, it was a really special moment to see people really connecting to the story. So, and that definitely helped with Kendall Cavner and her. She's just really an amazing actress.
I love the fact that how you made this film. You know, you made your short film off the bootstraps, and I also feel like the
Hmm.
feature film like this, you also have to be creative because you have to
Oh
wear
yeah.
so many different hats. You know,
Right.
acting in it, writing in it, directing it, and producing it. Tell
Yeah.
us about the challenges of doing all that. You know, for an independent film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it really was a challenge. And, that saying, anything that can go wrong will, like, that's just what happens. And so I think my main background and my main focus is acting. So as an actor, in some instances, I love when things go wrong, or it's like we try a completely new different thing. Like, that's just, it always adds like an excitement and interesting layer to it. But as a filmmaker, it definitely, it can be a struggle some days, because nothing, you can show up to the set, have everything planned that you want to, and just one thing can kind of just, it's like a domino effect. So I think you just have to really be okay with, as much as you've prepared, whatever happens when you're there in the moment, like, just go with it. Because there were moments that happened in our film that were not planned, and they are some of the most fascinating and best moments, like the scene with the dog. That was totally unplanned. Like, we were about to film something else, and this dog was at the end of the street, and we all kind of looked because the way that the lighting was and stuff. And I just told our cinematographer, just start rolling, and I told Kendall to call the dog over. And so that's been a scene that has been talked about or told to me from all over the world. So it's things like that that I think it's really special as a filmmaker. And when you can juggle writing, directing, producing, and acting, I think that just shows how much the person cares about it. So I hope people feel that when they watch the movie, is that there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of love behind it.
Since you brought it up, talk about the cinematography in this film because you know
Mm-hmm.
it's the camera angles and the colorization and all this kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. I've noticed how it differs from scene to scene,
Yeah.
throughout from start to finish.
Yeah, that was something that's always fascinated me is cinematography. And so, by doing this, it was really interesting to kind of get like a real backseat to it and just a real collaboration and that was something we really wanted, was the colors to be very specific in certain scenes, be very vibrant, because some of my favorite movies, they have these amazing colors, and the cinematography is just something that is just really pleasing to the eye, and also though in a very intense, dramatic thriller of a story. I just found it fascinating how you can have these colors that are vibrant, but then there's just, something really intense going on screen. So there's sort of a dichotomy there. But yeah, the way that, independent film is though, it's like you have you don't have the luxury sometimes to film, 10 or 12 days at a time. So we filmed over weekends, and there was a couple of times where, just because of the way life happens, the cinematographer or whoever was going to be behind the camera that day didn't show up. And so there's about 20 minutes of the movie where I'm the cinematographer. And I had to, like, because we were ready to go, but somebody got sick or somebody just didn't show up, and everybody else was ready to go. So we had to figure out a lot of ways of how we're going to make this work. So yeah, and then the very opening of the film, so that was shot at the Great Salt Plains in Jed, Oklahoma. And yeah, the person that shot that, he helped out. His name's Chris Bruza, very, very talented actor, but he has a lot of experience on the cruise side of things. Well, cinematographer wasn't there that day, so I was like, Chris, how do you feel about filming this? And I saw the nervousness, but the excitement, and like that's what always fascinates me. And so, yeah, it was really a collaborative effort making this film. And so it's really cool just to see people's natural talents shine. And so that's something that we really explored with this.
For Monsters Within, the story is based in a small town. I mean, that is like
Right.
a comment about the small town. Can you talk about how the location and the story location of being in a small town, was that purposely deliberate or just a matter of convenience because it is a independent film?
Yeah, no, I mean that was the intention, was for it to feel like, small town, because really, I mean, we filmed in probably 10 different cities. And
Mm.
so I took different locations from each of those cities and just combined it into this like sort of fictional small town because I wanted it to I wanted people that especially have that experience of growing up in a small town. I have a lot of friends and my family members, they've grown up in small towns. So I felt it was kind of interesting if I just kind of like crafted this town in itself, but take different locations from smaller towns. And yeah, there's that's another thing that a lot of people have told me after like a film festival screening or something is it's like, wow, that made me think of like growing up as a kid or like I remember, seeing like a small town atmosphere and like yeah, so that was definitely the intention of going into it.
Now, as going back to the beginning where you were talking about the origins of your
Hmm.
film, brother and sister, you literally put your sister, Daniela, into this film. Can you talk
Yeah.
about putting her into this film, how you wanted to direct her,
Hmm.
and showcasing her, making this a sibling project?
Yeah. Oh yes. I mean, my sister Daniela, she has Down syndrome and growing up, like, I mean, in that aspect of this story, like that's where a lot of that was of myself was put into it, where we've moved around and lived in so many different cities and bases, and I think naturally, especially where the sister has special needs, I think the brother just automatically kind of gets like a big brother, very protective spirit of her. So that's something that I knew I wanted to be in the film, and I knew by putting her in it, that would just help that sort of authenticity and maybe just come across even more of just how important it is. But, she's my biggest inspiration in life. So I knew I always wanted her in it no matter what. But the challenge was so about 2 years before we started filming, maybe a year. So she started going through what they're calling regression in Down syndrome. So her personality just kind of changed completely, where she was very,
Mm.
very talkative, very outgoing, but she just all of a sudden started to just become really quiet, not do a whole lot of talking, almost just kind of wanted to kind of be by herself a lot, which was not like her at all growing up. So with the original story of the movie, I knew I wanted to have her more in it, but I talked a lot with my parents about it, and it's something we thought a lot about, and so I had to really make a decision of okay, how am I going to go about this story, and um so I did change the story in some ways, but at the end of the day, I knew no matter what, I wanted her as the heart and soul of our film. And I don't want to give any spoilers for the movie, but with what the story is that we have in our film, um, it definitely has impacted a lot of people. We were just at a screening in Arkansas, and somebody ran out about 20 minutes before the movie, and they found one of our crew members, and she was just like please tell me that Luke's going to be okay, and please tell me that that the story's going to be good because I feel so connected to this character, and she's like, I can't watch the rest of the movie if I don't know what happens. And luckily our crew member, which was Chris Prusa, he just looked at her and kind of gave her, I guess, a good reassuring nod, and she went back in, and then yeah, she was just really connected to the story. But that was something she said was just how connected the brother and the sister, they were. So yeah, there's just been a lot of really great moments on this process.
No, it certainly shows.
Yeah.
Now, Devin, I've taken a lot of your time already. So, what is up next with you?
Mm. Yeah, so up next, so as an actor, I booked a supporting role in this World War One creature feature, that's called Worm, and yeah, that's very special effects heavy. I play a soldier in that from World War One. I'm really excited for that to come out. I believe it might be next year's when they're thinking that'll come out. But then, as a filmmaker, this is something that I've really found like a really interesting avenue as is actor, writer, director. So we just completed two new proof of concepts. One's called See You in Your Sleep, and the
Mhm.
other's called Beneath His Skin. And really excited about those. Really amazing cinematographer with that. His name is Spencer Sakurai. And yeah, the one of those is going to be the next feature film, and maybe potentially a series after that. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's wonderful. And one last thing before I let you go,
Yeah.
the late Samuel French, he died
Hmm.
from cancer lately. And
Yeah.
this film is one of his last roles. Can you
Hmm.
remark about Samuel?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still kind of coming to terms with it, and it's tough to talk about, but I sent his brother a message when our trailer just got released recently, and his brother, what he said really kind of stuck with me and impacted me was that it's been a really tough year for the family and all of his friends, and but at the same time, it's they're really looking forward to the film coming out and people being able to see his performance, and also they can see him again in certain ways. And I thought that was a really interesting it was a really interesting thing that he said. And yeah, Samuel, oof, he was just an amazing person, great father, and an amazing actor because, in our movie, he plays the villain and just gives a very just raw and intense and very intimidating performance, but when you would talk to him in real life, he's just really amazing guy, very supportive. Right before he passed, we him and I talked on the phone. We had like a 2 hour phone call, and some of the
Mm.
things that he said, I just keep playing that over again in my head. And yeah, the film's dedicated to him, and our film's release is dedicated to him. So yeah, we're excited for people to see his one of his final performances, but it's definitely still tough, but. He was a great guy.
Well, you certainly made a powerful film with Monsters Within. So, Devin, thank you very much for speaking to us. I'm certain that down the road we will have another chance to do this again.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Bye now.
Bye.